Hi Prepsters, this is Ola with PandemicPrepsters, and today I'm going to share with you a family tradition that I learned from my former mother-in-law, Spanish rice. This stuff is so good. All right, and this has my twist on it as well. All right, we're going to start with a pan that's hot. We're going to add 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil of your choice. If you're doing this in an electric skillet, 375, 400 is okay. If you're doing this on the stove, then medium high is what I recommend. Now, once that oil is nice and hot, if you're adding pieces of garlic, this is where you're going to add that in, and then you're going to brown it. Don't blacken it, just brown it and infuse that oil before you add your rice. And I'm adding 2 cups of my of my jasmine rice, and that's my long grain rice of choice. And I will get that incorporated into that oil, stir it in, and I'm going to get it to a pretty almond color. It just adds that rich flavor when you do this extra step by getting it to that almond color. So if you're adding fresh onions, this is where you're going to want to add your onions. When you're almost to that almond color that you want, you're going to add your fresh onions and get them cooked until they're clear in consistency. And then we'll add our garlic. It is wonderful. So yeah, definitely want to add onions. Later on, I will be adding some dehydrated type onions. Now, when you're ready for the garlic, once those onions are clear, you will, I add a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of garlic, and I incorporate it really well, get it mixed in. And at this point, this is when it starts to smell so good. And while I have you here, I just wanted to say, if you guys wouldn't mind liking this video, share it. If you know somebody that loves good Spanish food, share this video with others. It's a great family recipe, and I would love for it to go out there and you guys like, share, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. I truly would appreciate it. One of the nice things that I also do with recipes like this is I'll often use some of my prep stuff, like my dehydrated garlic or my dehydrated onions. Oh yes, I do a lot of those. I have a video on that if you want to go check that out. And instead of always worrying, oh, I don't have fresh onion or this or that. So yeah, make sure you go check those out. So here I'm adding 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. The tip here is add the tomato sauce before you add the other liquids. That way the rice will absorb that color, and that's how my rice ends up being so beautiful in color. It's from this very step here. I incorporate that tomato sauce really well, and then whatever's left in the can, I will use my water or my broth to get the rest of that color out as well. So this is my twist. This was not my former mother-in-law's recipe. This is Rotel. I add this in. You can choose your heat on the Rotel. Mild, regular is what I used, or spicy if you like a little bit more kick. And I mix that in really well. What she used to do was she would add a whole Anaheim chili. Once you add all the broth and stuff, you add the Anaheim chili last, put the lid on and let it cook. So, all right, here you can see I'm adding the rest of that tomato sauce in using one of my 2 cans of chicken broth that I'm going to be adding here. I use at least 2 cans, sometimes more. If I find that I need to add more liquid, sometimes I'll just do a cup of water at a time. Or I use the extra can of chicken broth that I have. But remember, you can do this and make it vegetarian by using a vegetarian broth instead, or just going with water. You can go with water. That's perfectly okay. Here I'm finally adding some onion. Since you saw that, I forgot to add that. I always have other choices. So I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of this. Maybe it's a little bit less. I didn't quite measure, as you see. I just, whatever looked good. And then I will also, in just a few minutes, sample this. And so I can tell at that point if I need a little bit more onion flavor as well. So that was the traditional bouillon that I would typically use. That's how I was taught to cook it. However, today I'm using Mediterranean sea salt. So I'm just gonna put about 1.5 tablespoons there. Less or more, just depending on your palate and what you like. I'm also adding fresh ground black pepper. I always like that, but if you don't have that, get it from your pepper shaker. I don't care. I don't judge. You do you. So now I'm going to finally get to sample this. It's really important to sample the broth and just to look to see where you're at. All right, about 16 minutes after this has been cooking, I'm like, check it because it can have a tendency to burn. And as you can see, there's a lot of liquid at the top, and I'm mixing it in. Now, don't stir in circles. You want to kind of push, kind of fluff it. And I just want to get that liquid to the bottom. And there I'm sampling it to see how done it is. What I find is it's al dente. It's just slightly, just below done. So I turn it off and let it sit for about 8 minutes. So that is the tip. Don't overcook the rice. It gets mushy. So once it's almost done cooking, I simply put the lid on, turn the heat off, and let it finish cooking on its own. And I waited an additional 8 more minutes. And this is where you're seeing it, where it's at now. It's perfectly done. It is so good. Oh my gosh, so good. This is one of my children's favorite things that I make, a side dish all the time. You can also add shrimp to this as you add all the liquid, and then you can make a full meal out of it by adding shrimp to it and letting it cook with the rice, and it's really yummy that way as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but this is one of my family's favorites. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to dehydrate some of this and make instant Spanish rice dehydrated. And I'm also going to freeze dry some of this. And so go check out some of those videos because I think I already have one of those posted. So well, what do you think? Does it look delicious? Leave a comment down below. I would appreciate it. And again, if you can share this with people, I would thank you very much for doing that. Well, we hope you have a wonderful day and a better tomorrow.